is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, gang? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Another packed show today as the Jets are on the ice, and it is Toews time in Peg City. The first game action for surefire NHL Hall of Famer Jonathan Toews as he resumes his NHL career here in his hometown of Winnipeg. And tonight, Toews will be in the lineup as the Jets take on the Edmonton Oilers at Canada Life Center. We'll hear from Coach Scott Arniel. We'll let you know who Toews is taken to the ice with and more. We'll have a practice report a little later on from Connor, who was down at the morning skate today. And Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press will join us to get ready for tonight's game and talk Jonathan Toews as his journey continues back to the National Hockey League here in Winnipeg. I don't know about you, but I haven't had much time since yesterday not talking about the rule changes in the Canadian Football League. Say this, people still care very much about the CFL. And it's been interesting to hear the back and forth from so many people on different sides of the arguments, I guess, coming out of the big announcements yesterday. Justin Dunk will jump on the program at the bottom of the hour. Caught up with him a little earlier, and we'll hear the comments from Nathan Rourke, which I'll be honest, I was taken aback a little bit by. But again, love of the game, love of the country, strong opinions. Everyone has them. And the marquee player in the Canadian Football League certainly had some strong takes. We'll get to those as well. I see JBM in the chat. Jake's going to join us. We'll talk Jays. They take on the Boston Red Sox tonight, looking to establish a flag at the top of the AL East and one of the two buys in the AL. Yankees with the second best record in the AL East coming to tonight, just 2 games back on the Toronto Blue Jays. So still some work to be done for the Jays, despite already popping the bottles and having their playoff clinching party a couple days ago. Oh, and speaking of Jake, heads up, folks, tomorrow we're back at it with another WST poker tourney. Hope you can join us, 8 p.m. Central Time. We'll throw out informations on the social. If anyone that had played in the tournaments before, you know how it works, but just go to Coolbet, click on poker, download the poker app, and then when you go in, click on tournaments, search WST. It'll be there. Myself and Remis will both be in $100 bounties on our head. The Hammer is also confirmed. Jeff Hamilton, who either won or came second in his first tournament with us. I think he did win it, actually. So anyways, you can look for Hammer as well as many of you. So that's going to be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We've got a schedule now. We've got 4 more dates through the rest of 2025 for the Wednesday night poker series with Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hope you can join us tomorrow at Coolbet. Send us a DM if you've got any questions on that, and we'll make sure you get hooked up. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, a big thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet. By the way, Coolbet also, of course, presents CFL 110. And you can imagine we had a very spirited show today with myself and Jeff Hamilton. I think the 110 was about the length of the show. Well over an hour and a half of CFL talk, mostly around the announcements yesterday. That is up on the YouTube channel right now, so check that out after Winnipeg Sports Talk today if you missed it already. And speaking of the Bombers in the CFL, during the show, both the CFL 110 and the Lock Shop, which I just finished with Dusty, we've seen some pretty big line movement in both the Montreal-Calgary game and the Winnipeg-Hamilton game. And that is because of quarterback availability, and we'll touch on that coming up as well. Big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto. Of course, the HSC Millionaire Lottery. Don't forget the early bird deadline. First early bird deadline is Thursday at midnight. So get your tickets now at hscmillionaire.com. Rollies Transfer, Canadian Club, St. Vital Dental Center, as well as Manitoba Battery and F Apparel. Our friends at Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, Assiniboia Downs live racing back tonight, 7:30 p.m. post time. Breezy Bend, we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. And of course, so much fan feedback from all of you. We'll do that a little later on for fansfirst.ca. Michael Remis, what a show yesterday, and what a 24 hours in the Canadian sports talk space, as the CFL stole all the headlines before, right here in Winnipeg, Jonathan Toews and the Jets steal them tonight.
Yeah, we haven't really had, real full NHL preseason to talk about. So you had the one game, but it wasn't a lot of regulars. But tonight, yes, Jonathan Toews making his debut in a Winnipeg Jets uniform. He'll be skating alongside, Cole Perfetti and Gus Nyquist on the top line. But the CFL really dominating the headlines. Everyone talking about the new rule changes coming into effect next year and in 2027. I think there's a lot of mixed reaction from the polls that we've put out on our show. And man, you and Jeff, CFL 110, usually like an hour long,
Maybe.
50 minutes. Yeah, like that's what it's been this year, going through all the games. I mean, you spent over an hour at least on just the rule changes, debating them, and people were loving it. I think when you started talking about last week's, the actual games of the season last week and the upcoming, people are like, go back to the rules. We don't care about the games, which makes you wonder what the timing of this kind of stealing the spotlight from what's a great playoff race in the West Division. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Justin Duncan. I like hearing from everyone's perspective on the rule change, why they happen, and the desired, if they'll achieve the desired impact, if they're even necessary. I think we're going to have the commissioner on. They said he would come on, so that should be interesting on tomorrow's show.
Yeah, exactly. Scheduled Stuart Johnson, and we'll hit him with all the questions. And certainly, if you've got things that you want to ask the commissioner, you can send them our way, and we'll try and get a few of those in from CFL fans as well. Listen, we'll get to the Rourke quote before we bring in Justin Dunk, but let's get ready for tonight's Jets game. Of course, Jonathan Toews, first game in a Jet jersey. As Remis just mentioned, he'll be leading the top line with Cole Perfetti and Gustav Nyquist. First chance to take a look at this new look line 2 for the Winnipeg Jets this year. And we're going to see another game from Braden Yeager and Nikita Chibrikov. They'll be skating with Tanner Pearson, Jet newcomer. Third line is going to be Parker Ford, Brad Lambert, and Colby Barlow. And then Jacob Julian with Shaw and Dewar on line number 4. I'll be honest, I am really excited to see this top defensive pairing tonight. We're going to get another chance to see Elias Salomonsson. Yesterday we were so tied up in the minutia of the CFL announcement that we didn't spend a ton of time talking about Sunday's preseason opener. And just my one takeaway of a few from that game was that Elias Salomonsson looks like an absolute stud. And I mentioned yesterday, I would love to see him play, with, one of the more established members of the Jet blue line. Well, he's going to get a chance to do that with Dylan Samberg tonight. It'll be that top pairing. So it'll be Samberg, Salomonsson, and Ville Heinola is getting in alongside Luke Shen, which I think is sort of an interesting pairing, kind of a perfect yin to the yang of Ville. So hopefully he can have a strong game tonight after all the hard luck he's had over the last couple seasons. Cale Clegg and Colin Miller with the third pairing. And, with the expanded rosters for preseason, Ashton Sautner and Dylan Anhorn from the Moose will get into the lineup tonight. Goaltending, Eric Comrie gets the start. Dom DiVincentis will be the backup. Not sure whether they're going to be splitting it or letting Comrie play the full game. But that's the way things are looking tonight for the Jet game. For me, Remis, there's two things I'm looking forward to tonight. One, getting down there a little bit early, getting a chance to sample any new concession options, getting the lowdown on the Slurpees in the building, and then, of course, seeing how Jonathan Toews looks in that Jet jersey. I wouldn't be surprised. Listen, these preseason games, now that the team's been back for 15 years, usually are, I don't want to say dull, but it's just nothing like a regular season game. I'm not sure that the crowd isn't there a little earlier today, and I'm not sure we don't get a big time, albeit preseason, welcome back to the Peg for Jonathan Toews in his first sort of official order of business in an actual game for the Jets.
Yeah, I haven't seen a preseason game this anticipated since, I don't know, the first one. I don't know.
One.
For like
That's it.
Against Columbus, I imagine it's not only Jonathan Toews' first game in a Jet uniform. It's his first, time on NHL ice in a game in a couple of years as he's taking time off. So I think it will be exciting for that. A lot of unknown. Like I think if you did a poll, Huss, with the chat saying how many points do you think Toews will get this year, you'll get answers just about any number. So I think that's a big question this year. How is he going to look after time off? And I'm interested to see how this plays out. So I think he'll get a big reception, as you said. Will he get like a cheer every time he touches the puck? I don't know if we're going to get in that territory, but I think it'll be exciting, as you said, for warm up when they come out. And would he be the first, the starting line, to get a big cheer? Something to be anticipated as well. And yeah, you have the young guys, Yeager still around with Pearson and Chibrikov. Are those guys going to have an impact at the NHL? And even the third line, Barlow, Ford, Lambert, promising as well. You mentioned Salamonson, Ville Heinola. There are some, you don't have the top line, Shafley, Connor, Velarde, but definitely a lot of intriguing names on this lineup tonight that could see NHL action this year.
I was just looking over at Coolbet, and we'll be doing a couple of WST winners episodes before the season with some of our favorite picks and going through all the props for the players over the course of the season, as well as team bets with Pat, Jake, as well as Remis and Connor. The one guy that I don't see listed right now for a season total is Jonathan Toews.
No.
And I'm very interested to see where that number is. I think it's probably in and around 50, high 40s, maybe mid 40s. But as soon as that's up, we'll talk about it and probably hit an over bet just to support Jonathan in his return back. Jets definitely need him as he kind of takes over that 2C role in his comeback. Let's hear from Coach Scott Arniel right now. Arnie spoke after the morning skate today, and here's what he said he wants to see tonight from his squad.
Get the cobwebs off, kind of get themselves into sort of lose the summer hockey and get into the regular season stuff. I just there's some of the things that we've worked on, building and system structure, kind of put that in place. Obviously, it's also getting out there and play and get themselves, especially when I talk about our veteran guys, get up and get the games underneath them, get feeling good about themselves, and just do what they have to do.
All right, so there's Scott Arniel on the team, but all eyes are going to be on number 19 tonight. Not David Gustafsson. He has passed on number 19 to Jonathan Toews. The Gus bus is now number 41, but Toews is going to be front and center, probably taking that opening draw tonight and getting a big, warm Winnipeg welcome home. But here's what Arniel had to say just about the excitement level to get Jonathan Toews out there with the Jets.
For me, it's just we've had some good communication about this is all a step in a process. That may not go great for him tonight. It may go awesome for him. It's all part of getting ready for that opener against Dallas. And, this is the first, after all these practices, the inter-squad game, now he gets to kind of go out and do it in live situations. And I just need him to just continue, build on our systems and how we play. Do what he does best, and that's a lot of things, and just kind of get himself comfortable, and hopefully he can just feel good out there and hopefully have some fun with it.
When you get a player like that with all-time hockey IQ, what's it like as a coach watching him adapt and pick up your system?
Yeah, and that's usually what they're good at. They usually you don't have to tell them, you don't have to repeat yourself too often. They get it, they understand it. Maybe they've played it in the past, but they read situations in games. It isn't always drawn up, maybe as you always see on video or on the blackboard. There's some decision making that has to happen, and those guys with that IQ usually are the ones that respond in the right way.
All right, a little more of Scott Arniel now. Jacob Julian, who's just had two incredible seasons after being drafted with the London Knights, making his move to pro hockey. He's wearing number 67. He's had a nice camp, and he gets another crack at preseason action tonight. Here's what Arnie had to say about Jacob Julian so far.
Another young guy that saw him last year, and big, tall, skinny guy that had won I was with Memorial Cup there with London. late bloomer, and you know what, just seeing progression. You know, again, they went to the World Cup. He's got some good experience being able to play with some top-end players in junior. Now he's going to turn pro, and it's a little different game for him, but he's got to kind of find his, recognize that he has to do some things consistently every night, and yeah, I'm excited to see him play. You know, I watched him, like I said, up in Montreal. All these guys that you get a second look, you want to see, have they improved, have they built in certain areas, have they gotten stronger, have quicker, have they maybe their game is you know, showed a maturity level to it. That so he's one of those guys that falls into that category.
All right, so keep your eyes out on Jacob Julian. He will be skating on that fourth line with Sean Dewar tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. Now, as I mentioned, we were going through the lines. I am really excited to see how Elias Salmonson looks with Dylan Sandberg. They'll be paired on the top pairing tonight. Here's what Ronnie had to say about giving Salo a shot with Slammy.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit by design. I mean, I always want a veteran with a young guy at times, and it's just a little bit of that. It's kind of just, you know, he wants to kind of watch how he plays. Well, he's going to be standing right beside him most of the game, and yeah, I just want him to experience a lot of these situations, different partners, and just again a little bit like Toews, I guess, just go through this, build through each game, and he did some really good things the other night. There's some things that we had talked about, showed some video on that he can maybe work on a little bit, and hopefully that all comes into play tonight.
Here's an interesting question from one of the assembled media that, you know, is not really having anything to do with this preseason game tonight, but more the journey and the end goal. Scott Arneal was, I believe it was Murat that asked him about the, you know, going back to the Cup final and watching the Cup final and what he learned or took from that Cup final, and how his Winnipeg Jets compare to the teams that were the last two standing, and obviously the Panthers that won it all.
Well, I think we proved that number one, we're one of the best teams in the league defensively without the puck, and that's 200 feet. That just isn't in our end of the rink. I talked about an awful lot about when we don't have it, go get it. That might be our forecheck, might be what we do through the neutral zone. But the other side of it is, you know, we didn't want to, you know, give up anything offensively. You know, we've made sure that we stayed strong. But I think the biggest thing when you watch not just the finals, but you watch the playoffs, it's different hockey, and it's hard to turn on a switch and go into battle mode, compete mode at game 83, 84, 85. I think you'll be late to the party if you do. And again, it's our resilience to get through things. And I think we did a good job of it last year. I still think we have another level to go. I really do. I think we can take it up another notch where we're extremely hard to play against. And I think I mentioned it earlier in the year or early in the summer. I think this group, we can play whatever game gets thrown. We'll obviously try to dictate the game, but if it's a big, heavy game, I think we have the roster for that. I think if it's a fast game, we're still there. Skilled game, whatever it is, specialty teams. I think that we have a group that can play all those different looks. And I think if you look at champions, that's what they have in their game.
Interesting one from Arneal to a question from our pal Murat Atesh. One more from the coach on tonight's game, and we're going to see Braden Yeager and Brad Lambert get back in for their second preseason game after being part of that opening lineup on Sunday. Here's what Arnie had to say about two former first-rounders looking to get into the mix, getting another chance in preseason action.
Well, I think that, you know, obviously they get that kind of the summer hockey out of them. I think that they probably feel a little bit more comfortable and go out and play their game. It's just, like for me, all these young guys, every chance you get to make an impression, every chance you get to feel confident in your game, go out and do what you do best. And you know, they all have skill sets that are some are the same, some are different. And there's offensive guys, there's defensive guys. You know, there's structure that they have to play with, but just go out and do what you do best, and you know, sort of let things lay out from there.
All right, so there's Coach Arneal. We'll touch base with Connor, who's down there this morning for a bit of a AM skate report later on today on the show. And Mike McIntyre will join us to, well, I definitely am looking forward to seeing what Mike has to say about what we heard yesterday from the Canadian Football League. But we'll focus in on the Jets and, of course, Jonathan Toews' first crack at preseason action with the club. We'll have Nathan Rourke's rant for you in a moment, and Justin Dunk is going to join us right away. But gang, it's time for me to remind you that you have until Thursday at midnight to get your HSC Millionaire Lottery tickets to support the Health Sciences Center before the first fall bonus deadline. Now, every ticket purchased for the event will be eligible to win one of your choice of 5 $1.5 million beautiful home packages, 4 in Winnipeg, 1 on Vancouver Island, or $1.25 million in tax-free cash. But there's so much more than just the massive grand prizes. There's thousands of local prizes made in Manitoba. There's a Grey Cup bonus. And right now, for the fall bonus and early bird, if you get your tickets in by Thursday at midnight, you'll have a chance to win one of $2,000 prizes in gas and groceries from Red River Co-op or $40,000 cash. Some amazing prizes rewarding those who get their tickets early. Makes a lot of sense to not only get your tickets, but get them now so you're in for all of these other prizes that will be available. We've got an extra super bonus. We've got the Grey Cup bonus this year, including tickets to the big game and more early bird prizes with $85,000 cash a little later on and 30 more winners of $500 in gas and groceries. There's a BMW up. There's a Toyota 4Runner up. So don't delay. Get your tickets today, hscmillionaire.com. Check out the website. It'll tell you everything that's available. Beautiful picture of Milt, Chrissy, and Terry there, as well as the spokespeople. But again, the fall bonus deadline is midnight on Thursday. So if you're going to get tickets, you may as well be in for that as well. Do it now, hscmillionaire.com. If you do want to purchase your tickets in person, London Drugs, as well as Red River Co-op locations, you can take care of it there as well. Hey, if you got a move coming up, folks, our friends at Rolly's Transfer would love to help you out, as they've been doing for over 6 decades. Family owned and operated right here in Winnipeg, and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Check out their website at rollys.com for their story, all of their services, and more. And in the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Make sure you put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. There, you can also let them know your planned move date, where you're moving from and to, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly and get you a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they have been famous for, now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's Transfer. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollys.com. Now that we're back into the grind of fall, you might be thinking, you know what, there's a few things I haven't done, including maybe seeing the dentist. Well, why don't you pop down and see our pal, Dr. Terry, loyal WST here, and our friends at St. Vital Dental Center. Of course, St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Winnipeggers, and they're taking customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups all the way to things like dental implants. You can find out more online at stvitaldental.ca on everything that they can do for you, as well as make an appointment. And of course, you'll be heading down to their beautiful new location at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment, great location, and convenient free parking right behind the building. If it's been a minute since you've been to the dentist, pop by and see Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff. St. Vital Dental Center. Book an appointment online at stvitaldental.ca. And hey, big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. Big Bomber game coming up on Saturday afternoon. And you know they'll be stocked with Canadian Club as the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The North End will be rocking, and people will be thirsty. And you'll also see people enjoying the great taste of Canadian Club and ginger ale in cans as well. Listen, you can pick those up at your local Manitoba liquor marts. The club pack with the CC and ginger, the citrus smash, the half and half is available for you. And of course, Bomber fans, don't forget about the limited edition Blue Bomber label bottle, available right now while supplies last, from the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Canadian Club, the original Canadian whiskey since 1858. All right, Justin Dunk is going to come on with us in just a minute. But yesterday, we did the program, and we finished the program after talking about it for the majority of the show yesterday, and started hearing some feedback from around the league. Now, many players were quite positive about it. Bolin, Mitchell, Davis Alexander. Seemed like Willie J with his tweet was pretty positive about them. Nathan Rourke was not. And this soundbite you're about to hear from Rourke, I think, took a lot of people off guard, probably especially the people in the CFL head office. This is the poster boy for the league. BC Lions quarterback Nathan Rourke, a Canadian himself, with his reaction yesterday afternoon to the CFL rules and stadium change announcements.
New rule changes are garbage. It's garbage. I, as many people did, fans and people who play in this league, grew up watching the CFL and loving the game. I grew up in Ontario, played Canadian football rules all my life, was aware of and was a fan of the league down there, but was a fan of the CFL because of its differences. I went down to the States, proud of the game, being able to explain the differences, the waggle, the yard, the extra person. These are the things that are unique about the game that make it different. And there's the rule changes to me make it sound like we want to be that league down south. We want to be that league. And from recent history and years past, leagues that have tried to emerge to try to be like the NFL haven't existed for very long. The CFL game has existed for longer than the NFL. And there's a reason for that. It's unique. The fans love it. I grew up loving this game. And they're changing that. They're getting rid of a lot of things. The worst part, I think, about it, honestly, is the fact that the people who play football, who have the football knowledge, were not consulted about this. The players weren't consulted, the coaches, management, nobody was consulted. This was done on their own accord. This was done independent of asking anyone who actually knows football what they want to do, what they think would be better. We have a commissioner who hasn't been here for a year, who's already trying to change the game. And I don't believe he loves football as much as I do, as much as many fans do, as much as people who grew up loving this game. I don't think you cannot make adjustments like this and tell me that you like football. You love the Canadian football game because you're changing it. And what we're moving towards is not the Canadian football game that I grew up loving, that I'm passionate about, that I came back and played. I went down and played in the NFL in that league. And I came back knowing that this is a game for me because of the uniqueness of it, what's special about it. And we're getting away from that, and that, frankly, makes me pretty pissed off.
How about that, Reem?
Nathan Rourke, he's hot. I'll give him credit for the rant. I love the passion.
Certainly had a take.
Love the opinion, love the passion. Didn't go up and spew, neutral, no take. However, some corrections, the stuff that he mentioned that he loves about the game, like the waggle and the 3 downs and the wide field, those are staying in. So I wasn't sure if he reviewed the changes or he thought what was to come in the future. And he did mention that the suits, with the board, never played. Wade Miller, he played a long time in the league. So not entirely accurate, but I'll give it a pass. Love the passion. The comments. Major approval for Rourke LFG, Rourke for commissioner. Love these Rourke comments. Damn Rourke, say it exactly, Nathan. Attaboy, preach, Rourke rocks. So he's got a lot of fans in our chat right now.
Hey, listen, I mean, he had an opinion and he stated it pretty clearly. I am with you. I don't necessarily think he was correct in a lot of what he said. But you do appreciate the passion that he obviously has for his team, the Canadian Football League, the league that he really is the face of right now. But I'm with you. I mean, I think it was a little bit over the top, and I think it was a little overkill. I am quite looking forward to having Stuart Johnson on the show tomorrow to ask him what his reaction to Nathan Rourke's thoughts were. And for the record, I don't think that they should have done all of this in conjunction with the players or the coaches or the GMs. At times when you have to make these decisions, you need to think about the league and everything. And everybody that is a player right now or is a general manager or is a coach certainly will have valid points and arguments, but I think that they'll all be looking for themselves or their own team first before the overall future of the game, which is the job of the commissioner and obviously the board of governors. So I was shocked to hear it from Nathan. It certainly is a hell of a great soundbite. Not sure if the BC Lions aren't in the Grey Cup, we could move away with the entertainment and maybe have Rourke and Stuart Johnson and the Cage or Hell in a Cell or something like that. But, it certainly got a lot of people talking. There's no doubt about that. So anyways, let's get into more of this. We will get back to the Jets in a few minutes when Mike McIntyre joins us. But a little earlier, got a chance to catch up with Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation to kind of go through everything we heard about yesterday from CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnson. Here's JD. All right, let's get some more reaction to the big changes of the Canadian Football League with the guy that was in the room. Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk. JD, great to have you back on the program. Big day for the Canadian Football League to kick off the week.
Indeed, it was. And I got some rumblings from people around the league about what was going to happen leading into it. So then watching the speculation online for 24 hours go wild, Hustler, was somewhat entertaining, but also it spoke to how much people I think love the Canadian Football League and are passionate about it. And I would consider Stuart Johnston in that group. And I think these changes are for making this game potentially more entertaining. I think the other side of it too is that it's not necessarily set in stone that if they make these changes, that this is the way that it always will be, right? We see leagues testing things out all the time these days and take the good. And if there's something that's not working that they've tried that's new, take it out of the game too. So I think that's likely going to be the case with the Canadian Football League, but there are some sacred cows here, namely the 55-yard line, that the hardcores are not going to like.
Yeah, well, Hammer and I are going to have to rename CFL 110 now. So that's why I'm all up in the air. No, let's go through these sort of one by one. And they started off with moving the uprights to the back of the end zone. And part of that is shortening the end zone from 20 in most parks to 15. You're a perfect guy to talk to about this because you're a former quarterback. Obviously, you cover the game, but you know how complicated things can sometimes get in and around the goal line from the quarterback. I'll be honest, I was amazed to hear the analytic numbers of where the touchdown passes are going in the Canadian Football League. And I will say this, I thought the commissioner made a very compelling case that this will improve the game. I mean, both as a former player and someone covering the league. I mean, what was your reaction to that?
If you look at the data, and then as you alluded to with my playing career at the University of Guelph, I think that it should help. Canadian quarterback Nathan Rourke feels otherwise. I'm sure we'll get to that here in a little bit. But when you look at the data, so the CFL studied it just for 2025, but I think if you went even deeper, you would notice the differences tenfold, that from 0 to 10 yards in the end zone, okay, this season up until through Labor Day, there were 46 passes attempted to the left side of the end zone from 0 to 10 yards deep. 23 of those completed, so 50%. On the right-hand side, almost the same. 45 attempts, 27 completed. In the middle of the end zone, from 0 to 10 yards, 19 attempted, that's it, with 6 completions. So much lower than 50% in terms of the completion rate, and you have less than half the amount of attempts from the left or the right. Then you go back 10 to 15 yards. In the middle, 3 for 10. On the left, 8 for 13. On the right, 5 for 12. When you get back to 15 to 20, the uprights aren't as big of a factor. The numbers, kind of even out. But I will say that when you're talking about some of these post routes, seam balls, throws in the middle of the field, not just when you're up close in the red zone, Hustler, but from deeper out, receivers and defensive backs don't have to be worried about banging into the post. I can understand the purists not liking that change, but I think from a player safety standpoint, and the whole idea for the CFL is to turn field goals into touchdowns, which they essentially think they can do once per game with this new setup. that you can understand that side of it. Now, what Nathan Rourke is getting at is what a lot of football people have expressed to me. How many players, elite or otherwise, how many coaches, elite or otherwise around the league, or general managers were actually brought into this decision? I was told that this was news to a lot of general managers up very close until the actual announcement happened. And I think that is where Nathan Rourke really has an issue. He felt like, I'm paraphrasing his words though, that the football people weren't having a voice in all of this, and the players didn't have a voice in all of this to come to what's the best for them. So I can understand that side of it, but also Stuart Johnston and the CFL and the league's board of governors don't necessarily want the secret to get out, because I think the way they delivered it was very professional. There was a lot of data to back it up, and they were able to keep it tight-lipped, which is a credit to those in the league office at the Canadian Football League. But I think Nathan Rourke has a valid point.
Yeah, I mean, just if you missed, Rourke called it the changes garbage. This is a quote from him. I grew up loving this game, and they're changing that. They're getting rid of a lot of things. The worst part I think about it is honestly the fact that the people who play football, who have the football knowledge, were not consulted about this. So, I mean, yeah, I haven't really heard him dive into why he doesn't like the changes, or is it sort of a case of hurt feeling that they weren't called to the table? I will say, and I kind of do understand that if they were looking at this big picture from a league and team spot, like once you get all of the people that have very different stakes in the game in the room, most of those decisions and feedback and input, I should say, I think would come from a place of kind of self-preservation and what is the best for that individual or that team. And when you're the commissioner of the Canadian Football League that's going to make bold changes that will come with criticism, it has to be done solely to benefit the game moving forward. But I do understand why a lot of people with a lot of experience in this game, Justin, might be a little miffed that they were finding out about it at a press conference the way the rest of us were.
And the other part of it, Hustler, that football people have said to me is the issue with the Canadian Football League is not the players. It's not the game. You can make tweaks to it to make it better. I understand it from that standpoint, but to really grow it, revenue needs to be boosted. So I asked Stuart Johnston one-on-one directly, does he believe that these changes to the game can lead to increased revenue? And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he can't necessarily draw a straight line to it, but they believe if there are more touchdowns scored, less field goals kicked, and perhaps more passes thrown, which are numbers that the CFL is bantying about, right? They're saying that they believe that with these changes, there's going to be 10% more completions. I think for touchdowns was the stat that they were putting out there, that they believe there'll be 60 more touchdowns in a season without the goalposts at the front of the end zone. So if that is indeed true, I could get behind that. But the key for this league to really grow is the revenue. Now, Stuart Johnston also told me that they're on to the next phase of his growth plan, which includes the business and really getting down to the nitty-gritty. And I think the one takeaway that we can have from this is Stuart Johnston was in the same exact place just 151 days ago being introduced as the commissioner of the Canadian Football League. And he's already opened up the neg list, which a lot of people thought the general managers would never want to do, but he made it seem like that was a pretty easy process to talk to them all and open it up. You can literally see all of the moves on the negotiation list now, adds and deletes, if you will. And then in that same time period, he's already made some major changes to the game. So this shows me he's not messing around, but the revenues really need to grow for the league ultimately to grow and reinvest those dollars in marketing and become even bigger than it is now.
Well, and listen, I get that, Rourke and some people that might be, have their feathers ruffled that they weren't consulted on this. I will say this, though, Justin, I think the league And the governor spoke loud and clear. I mean, he was very clear that this was enthusiastically unanimous around the league. And that in itself shows that people are on the same page, realizing that the goal of this is to make the league better. And they believe that it will do exactly that.
And I think you just have to look at, let's say, one of the smaller changes that people are used to now, or the hash marks changed. I don't necessarily think that that was a big deal or had a major effect on the game. There's been no data that the CFL has put forth to necessarily back that up, but people got used to it. So you make these changes, people are going to be upset, and they usually are at change, and it takes a little while to get used to. But I think after that, we can look back on it, and I'm sure the CFL will be tracking the data because Stuart Johnston said they're going to be monitoring this game by game, week by week, season by season, and say, oh, yeah, those changes did make sense. Like, for example, right, in Toronto, it's largely a grass field, but because the end zone needs to be 20 yards, Hustler, you've seen this, they have an extra piece of it that is turf. So that's also not safe for your players. Same thing goes for Montreal playing at Percival Molson Stadium, which is shared with McGill University. Those end zones are not 20 yards deep in a square. It's different. So you can have uniform across your Canadian Football League stadiums now. And from the CFL's perspective, ideally have the scoring go up. That said, I do think the football people need to have more of a voice in this moving forward and talk to some of your star players, whether you're actually going to put their input into action or not. I think it is clear to me from what Nathan Rourke said is that he at least just wanted to be heard. Like, he's out here talking about him and Buck Pierce. They don't game plan around the goalposts. Now, I think depending on which quarterbacks and offensive players you talk to and perhaps defensive players you talk to, that would be different. But at least to have his voice heard is, I think, what he's getting at.
So we've talked about the change of the field, moving the goalpost back 15 yards deep and new 15-yarders. The Rouge has been modified. I thought we wanted more scoring, Dunk. Why are they taking away the single points? I kid. And for people that might be unsure about how this will work, just give us a run out of when a Rouge is still in effect. The commissioners worry, and I think every CFL fans worry, of the Grey Cup being won on a missed field goal or a punt through the end zone are now history.
That's what I think the goal here was to get rid of the loser point or the failure point, let's say. So you have an end of game field goal that we've seen. I think most recently was Lauder-Imagn missing a field goal, and it goes through the back of the end zone, and that's a Rouge in a tie game, and then, the Argos won that game. So that's the real key here, is that they want it to be a active football play. So if a returner has the ball in the end zone and decides to give up a single point for field position, that's going to be a Rouge. If the ball is kicked into the end zone, punt or kicked, or with a field goal, and the returner's tackled in the end zone, that's going to be a single point. But essentially, all the other ways that you could score a Rouge, which involve kicking the football straight out of the back or side of the end zone, are going to be gone. So I like this change. I can understand people who are going to need time to warm up to it, but I think there's also another perspective here, Hustler, which you know well, is the gambling perspective. It makes it a little bit more understandable for, I think, new gamblers to come to the CFL and be like, okay, I know exactly what a Rouge is now, and you can't just, end a game on kicking it out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah, no, good point. Now, just a quick question. The one thing that I'm not entirely sure of is how the Rouge works on a missed field goal. Let's say that a kicker is attempting a 60-yarder and only gets it 55 yards of the way, and the ball drops in the end zone. Does the returner have to pick that up and return it out to avoid giving a single?
Yeah, from my understanding, that would still be a live ball, just like it is now, right? Similar to, I shouldn't say similar to in the NFL, because if there's a short field goal in the NFL, you can return it. But I think once it's kicked,
you can just walk away.
Yeah, it is a dead ball. But I think in the CFL, that rule will remain. Like, if the field goal is short, you can return it. And I believe it would be a live football, at least from the people who are onside, like live for the kicker, similar to what would happen on a punt.
Yeah, so I mean, there's the Rouge is not awarded when it goes out of bounds, either on a punt or a missed field goal for number one. The other thing that has been changed, and maybe you can kind of explain to this for folks that haven't played, the differences with the clock moving to 35 seconds. How will that change the game, and will that affect what we love about the Canadian Football League, the insane last 3 minutes of halves?
That part, to me, is still to be decided. And I think the league needs to be very clear on what's going to happen within the final 3 minutes here. But ultimately, the goal for this was to have consistency, because Stuart Johnston told me there were times where he would be in the command center watching these games and he would start a stopwatch and you would have the end of a play. And then by the time the referee actually blew the play in for the 20-second play clock to start, there would be 15, 20, 25 seconds, sometimes even more time that elapsed before the 20-second play clock starts. So the goal here is to have 35 seconds uniformly across the board start right after the previous play has ended. So I think the CFL needs to do a little bit better job in their messaging here, and then in terms of how that's going to work in the final 3 minutes, because some people are like, well, you essentially just made the final 3 minutes like the last 2 minutes in the NFL, that game could end rather quickly. So I think that part needs to be parsed out, but the idea is uniformity. So it's like 35 seconds, and there's not these times where you get 40, 45, 50 seconds in totality between plays.
Yeah, I was thinking about this last night as I watched that Chiefs-Giants game. The last 2 minutes of that game was all victory formation, and the coaches were shaking hands at the center of the field before the clock was even done. That is certainly not where the CFL wants to go.
Definitely not. I would imagine they still want to keep the 3 minutes. They send it out in their stat packages all the time, like how many games have been decided in the final 3 minutes. So that's where I think that this particular rule change needs to be communicated a little bit more clearly. I don't think they're going to want to do away with that fun and entertainment that can happen in the final 3 minutes. But when you look at the rule as a whole and think, okay, the league just wants 35 seconds between plays, that it makes sense. This doesn't really have anything to do with the NFL and its 40-second play clock. It's just the CFL's version and wanting to have it consistent.
Justin Duncan, 3 Down Nation, with us breaking down the big announcement earlier this week from the Canadian Football League and the rule changes from Commissioner Stuart Johnson. Justin, you did ask. And for me, there was a few things that I did not want to hear. I didn't want to hear anything about 4 downs. I didn't want less wide field. I wanted the ratio. I believe in the Canadian players. So those, when I look at this, I don't see, there's no hill to die in for me personally. I'll move forward and we'll be interested to see how it works. And I hope it'll work and make the game better. But the 4 down thing is always out there, especially when you get some changes going in this direction. You asked Stuart Johnson very clearly, could he guarantee that this league would never go to 4 downs on his watch? And he said, no, we can't guarantee anything. And he never says never on anything. But just thoughts on that. And what was your reaction to what he had to say and how he, kind of pushed back on the fact that, he's not guaranteeing anything, but that's not what they're talking about right now.
It was, I guess, kind of what I expected. Because if you say that and then something happens, you're going to upset the fans down the line too. And the question needed to be asked, Hustler, as you alluded to, because a lot of the chatter leading into this announcement was fans worried that the league could potentially go to 4 downs. And then when you look at the changes, you're like, okay, no 55-yard line anymore. There's only a 50. That seems an awful lot like the NFL. You're going to put the uprights at the back of the end zone. That's getting closer to the NFL. It might not be 10-yard deep end zones. It's 15 yards deep, so it's a little bit different. But we're starting to kind of look like 4 down football here. And I understand where Stuart Johnston is coming from with this answer. But I think if you come out and say, hey, we're never going to 4 down football, or that's not our intention, then that would alleviate fans' concerns. And that's essentially what he said to me in another conversation that I had with him one-on-one after the press conference at Hotel X that's not on the table right now. Their next focus, now that they've made these major tweaks to the game, is the business, is the next steps in these growth projects, let's call them, in the Canadian Football League. So I felt like the question was warranted. It needed to be asked. I felt like in that setting on the live stream that was going out, around this country on CFL Plus, on tsn.ca, and whoever else was carrying it live, because that was the main question. I didn't just ask it, Hustler, because our site is called 3downnation.com. I felt like that needed to be asked. And the best thing that I've noticed so far about Stuart Johnston is that he's going to give you an answer and provide as much depth as he believes he can. That might not hurt, some of these other announcements that they're coming with. But on the flip side, if he doesn't have an answer, he's not going to give you one. So he gave the best answer, I think, on this day that he could. Although I understand there are fans that are out there that are going to be worried. Well, he didn't guarantee that we wouldn't see 4 downs under his watch.
We're going to be having the commissioner on Wednesday, tomorrow. So we'll look forward to being able to ask him a little bit more about this and, his vision for the league moving forward. As I said, there's no hill to die on here for me. From your perspective, are you overall for these changes, and do you think it'll make the game better once they're instilled?
I think it could make the game better. The one that sort of hits closest to my heart is the 55-yard line. I feel like that's one of the main facets in our Canadian game that is a differentiator from the American version and their field. But if you're going to move the goalposts to the back of the end zone, then I understand, especially with the CFL wanting more scoring and wanting that scoring to be touchdowns, that you need to change the field and make it a little bit shorter. So thinking about it, digesting it a little bit, I understand the direction that they're going. And there's been changes in other major sports, Hustler. You know this well. Like, I think of Major League Baseball, for example. The pitch clock has arguably been the best change that Major League Baseball has ever made. It's sped up the game. It's made it consistent. There's no lagging around and all this types of different stuff. And then now it's almost like you have fans going the other way, where they want these robot umpires. They're looking at all these strike calls, right? So, I wonder if in time that will somewhat happen with some of the CFL fans, is they'll get used to the rules, because, change is difficult for a lot of people out there. I get it. And they might start saying, okay, well, if we're willing to tweak this, can we tweak some of the other stuff in the game that we don't necessarily like? That's already happened in our 3 Down Nation, WhatsApp group chat. And I'm sure it will happen even with the hardcore fans as they get used to this. So no, for me, there was nothing that was a hill that I was going to die on in terms of these new rules and game items, let's say, that they've unveiled.
I know that you and the entire 3 Down Nation team are all over this. If folks want more on where the Canadian Football League is going and more from Monday's presser, go to 3 Down Nation and check out all of that. Dunk, when on Sunday when the announcement came out from the Canadian Football League that a major announcement was coming with significant changes, I figured that bomber win on Saturday was just so ugly it forced the commissioner to act. Just a quick thoughts from a former quarterback on a professional team winning a game where into the fourth quarter, 1 completion for 11 yards and ended up with 3 completions on the day.
Never thought I would see that, especially in a Canadian Football League game. Okay, so maybe these rule changes could help out Chris Streveler. I don't know if he'll still be in the league by the time that they take place, but it starts to make me think, and some people around the league are going like, what is it going to take for Terry Wilson to get an opportunity? Like, Chris Streveler completed 3 passes in a football game and 1 in what you would argue was like a meaningful part of the football game. I get that they were dedicated to the run game, and rightfully so. But to see that is just something that I did not think we would see in the modern era of football. Hopefully Streveler can be better. But man, like, Terry Wilson's got to be sitting there going like, come on, give me a shot.
It harkened me back to my days of playing 6-man, where we would line up the tee and run every single play. I'm not even sure that there was a passing play in our offense at that time. And but hey, football is the ultimate team game. Defense, special teams, running the football, it is not impossible. That being said, this is not a blueprint for continued success. It'll be interesting to see where this goes from here. Hey, last one for you. I mean, you're a former youth sports quarterback. You do a great job with the 3-down team covering university football. How do you think what was announced by the Canadian Football League this week reverberates at the college and the minor football level here from coast to coast?
That's going to be a wait and see type approach, I think, because in talking with Stuart Johnston about that, it seems like he let Football Canada know and U Sports know that this announcement was coming, but they weren't necessarily, part of the consultation process. So the U Sports advisors, if you will, or the people that oversee it, I think are going to discuss this and see where it may lead to. I'm actually going to talk to the CEO of U Sports, if you will, Pierre Arsenault, and have that article for you on 3downnation.com. But, I think it at least has to be a conversation, right? I'm sure, Hustler, is what you're getting at. Like the Manitoba Bisons play at Princess Auto Stadium.
Exactly.
As well. So are you going to be shifting the goalposts back and forward? Are you going to be repainting the lines? And, how does it potentially affect the players that have to get used to small nuances, but if the changes aren't made at U Sports and then they jump to the CFL?
Yeah, and I mean, just listen, at the high school level, every high school, it's not easy just to completely change the way fields are set up. But it will be really interesting to see the reaction from Football Canada and at multiple levels in Canada, whether this is followed quickly, whether it takes a little while to, see how it goes with in the pros, or whether it essentially moves on its own and the 3-down game stays the same everywhere else. I know you guys will be all over at 3-down. Thanks so much for doing this, JD, and we'll talk to you very soon. Have a good one, pal.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, good stuff with Dunk. Check out all of his work and the rest of the squad over at 3-Down Nation. We got Mike McIntyre teeing up. We're going to have a quick practice report from Connor coming out of the morning skate today in just a minute. But Saturday, we're back at Princess Auto Stadium. Sounding like some good news. Zach Calero's back in practice for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That is, thank God, after what we saw on Saturday. Of course, Princess Auto is a proud supporter of the Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk, and of course, the home of the Bombers, Princess Auto Stadium. Princess Auto had headquartered and founded right here in the Peg, and with 3 locations to serve you: Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, Brandon as well, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them in store or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. It is that time of the year. Are you ready for what's to come? You know what is to come. Hockey season, but with that, the Winnipeg winter. Manitoba Battery is ready to go for the 2025 winter, which means that after getting your campers and your boats and your batteries for things like your ATVs, now we're going to be talking about sleds, but mostly talking about your car and your truck. Everyone needs batteries. Manitoba Batteries, your local option with the best prices in town. As Donnie always says, wake up Winnipeg, stop overpaying for batteries at the big box stores when you can save money and get the best service in town by shopping local at Manitoba Battery. Hit them up, Logan Avenue, the original location, the new one on Dovercourt Drive, or simply give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com. Not only will you get the best prices in town, but they'll deliver the batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. For all your battery needs, save cash and get the best service around. Manitoba Battery. Shop online today, manitobabattery.com. And hey, as we get into fall, guys, if you're looking into your closet and realize you need to up your menswear game, only one place to do that. That, of course, is F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. The fellas at F will get you suited up with custom suits starting at just $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories as well. If you are getting married, make sure to talk to the guys at F about a special discount for the wedding party when you get your suit at F Apparel. And they've also got a deal right now, free dress shirt with your wedding party suits. Talk to the guys in store about that. Again, you can check them out online or make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, Mike McIntyre is all teed up and ready to go. But to lead us into Mike, let's get a morning skate report from Connor Rabchak from Winnipeg Sports Talk, who was down at the rink this morning.
The Winnipeg Jets just wrapped up their morning skate ahead of tonight's preseason game against the Edmonton Oilers. Here's everything you need to know. The biggest story here at morning skate is that Jonathan Toews will make his Winnipeg Jets debut tonight at Canada Life Centre for the Winnipeg Jets. He'll skate alongside Gustav Nyquist and Cole Perfetti on what projects to be the Winnipeg Jets' second line on opening night of the regular season. Scott O'Neill was asked what we can expect from Jonathan Toews. Here's what he had to say.
This is all a step in a process. That may not go great for him tonight. It may go awesome for him. It's all part of getting ready for that opener against Dallas. And, this is the first, after all these practices, the inter-squad game, now he gets to kind of go out and do it in live situations and kind of get himself comfortable. And, hopefully, he can just feel good out there and hopefully have some fun with it.
Another thing I'll be watching for in tonight's game is Winnipeg Jets top defensive prospect Elias Salamonson is skating alongside Dylan Samberg. Now, in the offseason, Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott O'Neill said that Samberg is the perfect defenseman for Salamonson to model his game and his development path after. So I'm going to be interested to see what those two players can do skating alongside one another. I asked Scott O'Neill after the morning skate what we can expect from those two as a pairing. Here's what he had to say.
He wants to kind of watch how he plays. Well, he's going to be standing right beside him most of the game. And I just want him to experience a lot of these situations, different partners, and he did some really good things the other night. There's some things that we had talked about, showed some video on that he can maybe work on a little bit, and hopefully that all comes into play tonight.
Puck drop is set for 7 o'clock down at Canada Life Centre as the Winnipeg Jets get set to take on the Edmonton Oilers. This has been the WST Practice Report. My name is Connor Rabchak.
All right, good stuff from Connor. And yeah, Garlic Fingers, we've heard of Vertical View. It's called social media. Ever heard of it? Those are going to be posted daily by Connor after the skate, morning skates, practices. We'll have those throughout the year. But yes, that was not specifically for it, but he did a great job. We wanted to get it on, and we'll have those again as we continue kind of expanding our Jets coverage here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Speaking of Jets coverage, Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press joins us now. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, Huss. Good to be here in vertical form. Good to be vertical. You just had the F Apparel ad on, and, let me take you inside the press box at the first preseason game the other day. F Apparel, you're talking about upping your menswear game. We were actually all discussing whether we can downgrade our menswear game this season. The players no longer have to dress up to come to the game. And I don't know if anybody noticed, they always show some of the players' arrivals. And on Sunday, some of the guys took the opportunity to ditch the jacket and the tie and the dress shirt and come in a little more casual now that they're allowed to. So here we all are, all us reporter types up in the press box in our suits. Do we got to still dress up anymore, or can we cash it up?
Well, I think you know where my vote is on this. One of the main reasons why I enjoy being a season ticket holder and sitting in the stands is that I don't have to wear a suit like I did for so many years.
Yes.
Although I will say that when I do, the boys at F take care of it well. To do it on a game by game basis, a little tougher for you guys. But I would like that. We're going to start doing some power polls on the program, and that's coming up starting next month. And we'll have the serious power polls, like, the teams in the league and whatnot. But I'm quite looking forward to power polling the fits of the Winnipeg Jets that we get on social media now that things have been loosened up a little bit amongst some of the other ones that we've got. And God, if we could possibly open it up to the media as well. guaranteed I would be doing one for all of you guys.
Well, we will see how this plays out. Of course, they're only one preseason game in. I'll be really curious once the regular season starts to see if the Jets are dressed to the nines or a slightly lower number. I mean, look, teams might be able to have some fun with this, right? Like maybe they have theme days. Maybe if you're the Jets, wouldn't you love to have tracksuit day? Have everybody show up in a tracksuit? Maybe the first time they play the Vancouver Canucks. That'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it?
I'm sure the brass, the front office would absolutely love that.
They didn't like the helmet party idea, so yeah, probably not.
No,
but
that still, I maintain, the biggest missed opportunity in the 2.0 era.
Now, Huss, judging by the state of your chat, the change to the dress code is far from the burning topic on the minds of your viewers in terms of rule changes in pro sports.
Yeah, that is safe to say. And by the way, a quick scheduling change. Stuart Johnson, CFL commissioner, is going to be joining us Thursday. I believe tomorrow is the funeral for Ted Gavaya, so many CFL people will be involved in that. So we'll look forward to having Stuart Johnson, CFL Commission, on with us on Thursday. Nice. Mike, listen, before we get to tonight's game, what were your takeaways from what we heard yesterday from the new commish?
Yeah, I mean, put me in the camp, I guess. Like, first of all, I'm not a hardcore CFL fan. I'm just not. I don't cover the league. I'm a sports writer, obviously, but hockey's my main focus. And I'll be the first to admit, football is further down my list. Put me at a baseball stadium, put me on a golf course ahead of a football stadium. That being said, I'm a casual observer of the game. And I don't know, Huss, I came away from yesterday just wondering, like, how exactly is all of this supposed to make the game more appealing to maybe somebody that's on the fence? And I don't know, I guess I'll have to wait and see what it actually looks like in real time. And I just didn't hear anything yesterday that made me think, wow, that's gonna bring in a wave of new fans. And to that extent, I guess I almost side more with, and maybe not nearly as hardcore as Nathan Rourke, but I'm confused by a few things. First of all, why are you announcing this 2/3 into the current season when none of these changes are applying right now? Couldn't this have waited till the off season? Because now, I mean, I guess it's good that everybody's now kind of talking about the game, although I don't know if people are necessarily talking about the CFL in the way they wanted.
Hey, I don't know about that, but I'll tell you what. How about the fact that they were able to pull a press conference of that magnitude off without any significant leaks?
Yeah, that's...
Like, literally, we were sitting there, and I talked to a couple people, from TSN that said, hey, listen, I mean, 3 downs isn't going anywhere, like the big things. But we still sat down there awaiting what had happened, and I can't remember the last time there was any press conference where there was legitimate suspense in what they were going to say.
Well, and I guess we now kind of know why that was the case, because apparently they didn't consult with anybody outside their own very small insulated circle. Do
you think they should have?
Well, like the stars are, at the end of the day, like, don't you want some input from your players? I mean,
no. I for decisions like that, I think that everyone's got their own, they're looking out for themselves or their own particular team or their own particular situation. And if you're making changes with the betterment of the league overall involved, the minute you get too many cooks, everyone will have it. I mean, I think it makes it a lot harder to achieve whatever you're trying to do once you get too many cooks in the kitchen.
Again, though, how exactly is this making the league better? I mean,
he laid it out. You may not believe it, but I mean, they say they expect 60 more touchdowns. They expect more exciting games. So, I mean, there are a few things that are no brainers. I mean, I did not realize, and maybe I just haven't been paying close enough attention, or to the other stadiums that have the benches on the same side of the field. Like Luke Wilson last night made a great example of, late in the game and the ball was down on the 7-yard line or something like that. And all of a sudden you need to get your big formation out there. And the guy has to run like a 65-yard sprint to get there in time to roll a play. Like that is, listen, it's not fair based on, where you are. So, I mean, that to me is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never spent a lot of time thinking about the goalpost, to be honest, outside of thanking them in the West Final against the Riders a few years ago. But once they sort of rolled out all the data, it made a lot of sense to me that, we're essentially limiting a big portion of offensive potential based on where quarterbacks throw it. So I sort of get that. I mean, the only thing that I don't love, but I kind of understand it is somewhat necessary with the other changes they made, is the lack of the missed field goal returns, that are just wide, not necessarily short. And to be perfectly honest, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers' entire season may have changed on a missed field goal on Saturday in one of the more bizarre games in Canadian Football League history, I would suggest, with the way they win.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, to me, the Canadian Football League, the basis of CFL football is 3 downs. It's the wider field. It's 12 players on the field. It's a Canadian ratio. None of those things were touched. So I don't have the same outrage that a lot of other people do. That's just where I'm at.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe, again, I'm coming at this from a perspective that I'm not knee deep in the game at all, but I do wonder, Huss, if some of the angst is not related to the fact that maybe folks think that this is just the first step of an inevitable march towards a complete Americanization of the game. They're getting basically the field dimensions down to a much more Americanized game. Could it be that this is just the first shoe to drop, and in a couple of years from now, and I guess part of that will, the story will be told by the state of the league, right? And I mean, I saw a report, Huss, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but 7 of the 9 teams are losing money right now. So that's not great. And you got to do something about that, right? I mean, if you want the league to have long-term viability, you got to find a way to not have the majority of teams losing money. Does what was announced yesterday, does that turn the profit margin around? I don't know. Probably not
on its own in a vacuum. I don't think so. But again, I mean, listen, there's a lot of work that a lot of other markets have to do.
Yeah.
And again, our conversation of this in Winnipeg is maybe a little different than most other places because, we're right now in the golden era of Bomber football when it comes to support.
We're the gold standard.
The building is full every night.
Yep.
I mean, they haven't had an unsold ticket this year, which is truly incredible. But that isn't the case in a lot of other places, and I think you have to sort of be knowledgeable on it. Anyways, it's certainly given us a lot to talk about, and I don't think this is dying down anytime soon. Let's get to the game tonight, though. We're dropping the puck with a number 19 at center, and it ain't David Gustafson. He's now number 41, Jonathan Toews. I imagine everything this morning was mostly about the anticipation of seeing Jonathan Toews finally get back onto the ice in an NHL game, albeit preseason, as he continues and ramps up his comeback for the Jets.
We will get a chance to talk to Jonathan Toews after the game tonight. He didn't talk this morning, but I suspect one of the things he'll probably tell us is, and you would not expect to hear this from a 37-year-old decorated veteran of the league, there's probably a lot of butterflies, a lot of nerves for him for a preseason game. A preseason game for somebody normally in his position would be almost a burden more than anything, right? Like you're dreading it. You just want to get to the regular season. For Jonathan Toews, I imagine today is a pretty special day. And why shouldn't it be? This is his return to the ice after a long absence. It's happening in his hometown. Yes, the stakes aren't as high as they're going to be in a couple weeks, but this is a moment that he's been building towards. And I got to think that, he's chomping at the bit. Now, Scott Arniel probably wisely downplayed expectations. Like in that clip there, he said, he might, I don't know the exact wording, but he might not be great or might not be very good tonight. And we shouldn't take anything away from that. I think that's a good reminder for all preseason, especially when you're talking about guys that aren't fighting for jobs. They're just more or less getting their reps in, trying not to get hurt. But if you're Jonathan Toews, I got to think there's a little more to it tonight than simply just getting your reps in. Like, this is a big moment for him, and I'm sure there's going to be a roar when he's announced and when he takes his first shift, and it won't take away from what that roar is going to be in a couple of weeks, for the home opener. But yeah, all eyes are going to be on him, and why not? He's the star attraction in the lineup tonight that doesn't have a whole lot of star power otherwise. I saw a breakdown, Huss. Folks may not realize this. This will be the second straight game the Jets are dressing the bare minimum number of quote-unquote vets. And how a vet is defined is kind of unique, but you have to dress 8 for every preseason game. The Jets just made the threshold on Sunday with 8, and they'll just make the threshold again tonight with 8. So I'd say they're going young again. Of course, the guy we're talking about is 37, but they do have a pretty inexperienced roster beyond that top line. And yeah, we'll all be watching what he looks like. How does he hold up in a game situation tonight? I've liked what I've seen of Jonathan Toews so far in camp. I like that he appears to be his own worst critic. Like he's not the captain anymore, but he is very serious when he's been on the ice. And, that was evident on Saturday during the scrimmage that folks were packed in at Hockey for All Center, where he had a couple stick smashes, a couple audible naughty words to himself. He also made a few really nice plays, a couple that he'd want back as he works the rust off. But yeah, it should be a fun night down at the barn. I would suggest, Huss, probably a little more, maybe a lot more buzz around a second preseason game than we'd normally have.
Oh, Mike, I'll go on record and say I think this will be the number 2 preseason game in 2.0 history. The Columbus game with Buff and Stu and everything that happened. I doubt that'll ever be replicated. Even with the expansion teams, there'll never be anything like that Columbus preseason game that was here in Winnipeg in 2011. And listen, after that, like those other preseason games that year had a lot of jam too. It may as well have been a regular season game. But outside of that, I don't think there'll be anything close to tonight. With the amount of people there, the amount of people getting there early, the amount of people making sure they're probably there for warm-up and certainly for introductions and all of that tonight, because it isn't just a normal preseason game. It's a guy that we've been talking about for 15 years in this market is the greatest player that our city's ever produced, now beginning an incredible comeback story here in Winnipeg, and it certainly will take top billing. That's not the only thing to be paying attention to, though, tonight. I know Connor just touched on this in his report from this morning. The first thing after talking Toews when I looked at the roster tonight was seeing Elias Salmonson playing alongside Dylan Sandberg. And I was at the game on Sunday. I thought that Salo was really, really good. Stood out in a confident way. A guy that certainly seemed like he belonged and was ready for more. And the way that he plays, I'm not sure. The better competition and the better players he plays with, the better he will look.
Yeah.
That being said, to me, a lot of intrigue. I hope we see a lot of that pairing tonight. And, I know that this deck is stacked against him because of the roster numbers and the amount of veterans and all that. And it's probably not happening in the first 10 or 15 games for Elias Salmonson. But I will say that I think this is a huge opportunity for him to barge into the conversation that he is a better option than some of the other guys that are vying for ice time with the Winnipeg Jets. And if it's not now, that could be the case at the 20-game mark.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Scott Arniel, I think it was at the end of last season, talked about Salomonson as kind of perhaps a future Dylan Samberg, and now he's going to have the two of them paired together. I agree, Huss. Like, I think Salomonson could have the camp of his life, and I still have a hard time wrapping my head around the idea that the Jets would choose. They're already going to have a tough decision in terms of waiving at least one guy. And if they have Salomonson in the mix, like now you've got to waive potentially another guy. And that's on the basis that they keep 8, which they may not even do that. If they only want to keep 7 defensemen, they already have to waive 2 on top of potentially a third guy if Salomonson works his way in. And then I guess the other thing that I arrived to is this, Huss, like if they love Elias Salomonson's game, I got to think if you're going to do that, if you're going to include him on your opening night roster, it's got to be as one of your top 6, not as your top 7 or 8. You're not waiving a defenseman, a Logan Stanley, a Ville Heinola, a Colin Miller, a Luke Shen. You're not waiving a guy to keep Salomonson just to park him in the press box as your 7 or 8. You'd only do that. You'd only even consider doing that if you have him in your top 6. And I still think the numbers game ultimately works against him. But if you're trying to build your best roster, and if you say that it's strictly on merit, then he absolutely should be given every chance to prove he belongs. And the fact, I agree with you. I think he was great the other night. Noticed him in good ways quite a few times. And I do think that this is a player that maybe the better the competition, the better the teammates, the better he might look. And Arniel touched on that the other day about how, when there's a lot of chaos, like the prospects games and sometimes down in the A, like don't have that same structure. And he might not stand out the same way he does because he plays such a disciplined, structured game, and there's so much to like about him. One thing that I would have liked to maybe see a little bit more from him the other day, and I'll look for it again tonight, is some physicality, Huss. Because Elias Salomonson, he can be a very physical, borderline dirty player. And like, I think if you're the Jets, you want to see a lot of things from him, but I don't think they'd mind seeing a little bit of nasty to his game as well. Just to show that he could bring that if required. So, does he step up a little bit, throw a few hits, finish some checks? Like, I think that's something to keep an eye on as well. But yeah, it's a very interesting move for sure, who he's going to be paired with. And, I'll be watching that duo closely.
Maybe not quite with the expectations that the fan base has for Elias, but a guy that was in that position a couple years ago, Ville Heinola, is going to get a chance today. And I have to admit, if I was going to pair Ville on the left side with one of the Jets guys on the right side, Luke Shen's a pretty interesting yin to his yang, if you will, Mike.
He is. So just a little spoiler alert, my colleague, Kenny Weeb, he had a great chat this morning with Ville. He's got a story coming on it for the Free Press later today and in tomorrow's paper. But Ville was pretty candid with Ken about, and I'll say this, people that were hoping that he might come out and blast the Jets organization for the way they've handled it. No, not at all. In fact, Ville, he continues to be the ultimate team player, the good soldier. There's some frustration for sure. Some of it's aimed at himself. Some of it is aimed at just circumstances, maybe beyond his control. And Huss, I don't know if you played this clip earlier, but Scott Arniel was asked about Ville earlier this morning. He had an interesting answer that I don't know if people are aware of this, that he said Ville battled other things last year that we never really heard about, including additional injuries. And in fact, towards the end of the year, said he had a shoulder issue, and there was more concern about his ankle, that he said that he had to get that looked at again. And how last year, like, it just never really got going. And that's kind of been the story with him, unfortunately, mostly injury related over the last couple seasons. Going back to that tragic timing of the broken ankle in the final preseason game, where if that doesn't happen, he's probably supplanting Nate Schmidt in the starting lineup. And really from there now, it's just been 2 nightmare seasons. So another fresh start. This time everybody says he's fully healthy, full training camp participation and all that. And yeah, we get our first look at him tonight. And, you know, he's kind of the guy that we all just, I think, have on the outside looking in. But, you know, if he could have a couple good preseason games, it potentially changes the conversation as well. Because he's a guy that I got to think there are teams out there, Huss, even despite the fact there's not a lot of body of work to his last couple of years, would still absolutely take a flyer on him, you know, should he hit the waiver wire. And is that a risk the Jets are willing to take? We're going to find out in the next couple of weeks here.
Well, listen, they may not have an opportunity, and, you know, another alternative,
Nope.
you know, depending on where their depth chart is. But, you know, for Villy, I mean, we always joke that, you know, this is best shape of your life season. I mean, every guy's coming in. How are you feeling? I'm in the best shape of my life for sure. But, you know, with Villy, with what's happened to him in the fast few training camps, I mean, I sincerely hope that he's able to put his best foot forward and at this point show the player that he is and the player that he can be. Because, I mean, the bottom line, especially with what you just mentioned, I'll look forward to reading the piece in the Free from Ken. He hasn't been. And listen, that was a team that won the President's Trophy last year. I mean, they were like, it's one thing if your team stinks and you're playing for 2 years down the road and you just roll in some young guys and,
Right.
you know, let them sink or swim. I mean, that just doesn't happen very often with, you know, elite teams, of which the Jets were last year. And you combine it with a bunch of the injury problems that set him back the way they did at the start of the year. And it was sort of a lost season before it even started.
Yeah.
It does not mean that the kid's career is over or anything like that. And listen, there's probably just only a handful of teams that would be looking at the waiver wire and ready to plunk somebody off of it. Because, you know, again, you have to have an NHL job for them. It's not like,
Correct.
oh, we'll take a look at this guy and come in. I mean,
Find him on the farm, yeah.
you know, it could end up being, you know, a 2-week stint with the team for a bit, and then, okay, we're going with our other guys. This guy's healthy again, and then you're back on. But for Villy, I mean, the bottom line is he's got to keep his head down. He's got to do as best as he can to, you know, to be able to stay in and play at the top level when he does get his opportunities. Here's that clip that you were just mentioning. Let's just quickly play this. Shout out to Remo for getting this done. This is just on Villy from earlier today.
You know, we talked about it a lot last year, but missed all the training camp last year. This one, he gets a fresh start, so he made it through the medicals, and it's just continue to, you know, show us what you have. Everybody's fighting for jobs. It really is. Yeah, we know that there's our top guys, but at the end of the day, everybody's fighting for jobs. Can't control anything, but go out and do your best, and you know, that's what he needs to do.
All right, so there is that clip that you talked about, and it's pretty clear. I mean, this is a chance to get into a game. I mean, I'm sure he'll play some significant minutes. I mean, playing with Luke Schenn on what looks to be the number 2 pairing. And as I said, playing with a player like Schenn, I think, is a perfect complement to hopefully give him a chance to move the puck, make some plays, have the puck on his stick, Mike, and, you know, put himself into a better situation in the conversation around roster spots.
Well, and here's the thing, like the other night, I mean, I think we all have, probably a lot of us anyways, have penciled in a Hayden Fleury, Schenn third pair, potentially as the starting third pair for the Jets. And then you'd have like Stanley and Miller as your 7 and 8. And that would leave Villy as the odd man out. In that sense, here's a perfect chance for Villy to say to the coaches, you know what? I can give you more than Hayden Fleury. What about me on that pair? And again, force the Jets to make some tough decisions. There's going to be tough decisions one way or the other about players here, you know, unless a bunch of injuries hit and you can punt those down the road because you put a couple guys on IR. But yeah, I mean, this is a huge opportunity for Villy. One thing I'll say about him is this, Huss. regardless of where it is, he has to play hockey this year. He cannot just sit. And so whether it's with the Winnipeg Jets, whether it's with the Manitoba Moose, should he get through waivers, or whether it's with one of the other 31 NHL teams that potentially would put in a claim if he hits the wire, Billy Heinola has to play a lot of hockey this year. He can't afford another season of just a handful of games and practice after rehab skate after rehab skate, because that's how careers unfortunately get tossed away. Guys that just kind of get lost in the shuffle. He's still young enough. I think there's still enough tools there that it's not a lost cause at all. But he needs to play hockey this year, regardless of where it is. He needs to play hockey. And if you're the Jets, you hope that he forces your hand and says, you know what, my hockey has to be right here with the big club that drafted me, and then you worry about the rest after that.
Mike, you've been around camp, throughout the proceedings. Braden Yeager, Brad Lambert, Colby Barlow, Nikita Chibrikov, Parker Ford, they're all going to be playing tonight, sort of in that middle six. Of all of those players, who's impressed you, and has there been a player that's maybe left you wanting a little bit more?
Yeah, I must say I like what I've seen from Colby Barlow so far, and I'm not saying he's going to make the Jets off the hop. I think he starts with the Moose, probably without any doubt. But he's really leaned out. Like, he's a different player. He's moving a lot better. Coaches have noticed it. I asked him about it the other day after the Fan Fest. He scored a beautiful one-timer. Actually, Parker Ford made a great pass to him, and Colby Barlow has a rocket of a one-timer, and he scored one goal on it in the scrimmage the other day. He had another great chance. And I look at how he finished last year. Like, he had a terrible training camp with the Jets last year. He had a terrible start to his OHL season. So much so that he played himself. He was considered a lock for Team Canada at the World Juniors. I think, if you had done mock rosters like 6 months before the summer began, but he played himself right out of the mix. But to his credit, he had an incredible second half. He had an absolutely outstanding playoff. And, I think he's carried that into this summer and this offseason. So I'm really anxious to get a look at him tonight. I wouldn't say anybody's disappointed me, but I think Braden Yeager, and even Brad Lambert to a degree, that Lambert had that nice rush. Obviously, he drew the power play the other day and then got himself briefly into concussion protocol. That thankfully he was okay. But, I think what we're seeing is, especially on a veteran-laden team that kind of has most spots accounted for, there's nothing wrong with the fact that some of these young players are going to require a bit more seasoning. Chibrikov's an interesting one, Huss, because he's now listed at 21 pounds heavier than he was a year ago. Now, a lot of that is muscle, but I almost wonder if that's been a detriment. Like, did he put on too much in the offseason? Because I didn't notice him to the same degree so far that I did, like in the past, where he's kind of that lightning bug out there on the ice. And so he seems like he's not moving quite as quick, whereas Barlow's the opposite. I've noticed him. I'll tell you, the one guy that really stood out to me, stood out in camp skates, stood out in the scrimmage, and stood out the other night. He's not even here anymore, Haas. That's Kevin He. What a prospect I think the Jets have in Kevin He. For those that are wondering, he's not eligible to play for the Moose this year. He was not going to crack the Jets roster. That's the only option. It's NHL or OHL. Kevin He, though, I don't know if folks know this. He's from China. He actually is eligible to play for Team Canada. And I don't think it's out of the question that Kevin He gets off to a great start here over the next month and a half and potentially works himself into the World Junior conversation. And I just love everything about the player, his excitement, energy, enthusiasm. You see it. He's got a motor that doesn't
How about
quit.
that pass on Sunday?
Oh my goodness, that was a thing of absolute beauty. And to another guy, Huss, that you didn't mention, Danny Zhilkin. Again, he's not going to make the Jets out of camp, but my goodness, there's a guy that has very much, and if he can keep this up to start the year with the Moose, he'll be working himself into early call-up consideration. He just looks like a completely different player. Again, injuries have been an issue early in his career, but he's been a real standout in camp to me. I've really liked what I've seen from him. But yeah, at the end of the day, Huss, like when I was doing my preview with Kenny last week, we had something like 15 different forwards competing for like 1 or 2 spots. And there's just like the Moose, if they can get all these guys through waivers, the Moose are going to be about 3 lines deep with guys that quite honestly could be potentially the first call-up option should the Jets run into injuries. Like, there's a lot of depth in this organization. I just don't think there's a lot of jobs up for grabs, at least to start the season. But it is creating some great competition that should continue throughout the season at both the NHL and the AHL levels.
Yeah, you know what? Let me just throw out the why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray to everybody. For those of you that have been paying attention to camp and obviously the first preseason game, which of those players that I just mentioned that are in the lineup tonight that are not Jet regulars are you most excited about? Braden Yeager, Nikita Chibrikov, Colby Barlow, Brad Lambert. We'll include Parker Ford. He obviously got a call up last year and played well. They're all in the lineup tonight. We'll stick with the forwards. We spent a lot of time. I think Elias is sort of in his own category amongst Jet defense prospects, and Billy's already been in that category for a while. So let us know in the chat. We'll get to. And by the way, let's include Kevin He, despite not being in the lineup tonight. I know there's some love for Kevin He. Oh, by the way, got to shout out our pal Dr. Terry over at St. Patel Dental Center. He texted me a little earlier and just sent over a pair of tickets for the game tonight. So if you are able and want to go to the game, stick around. We'll do a little wheel of winners at the end of the program or after Jake jumps on with us, and send one of you to see Jonathan Toews' first skate in game action as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. Mike, before we go, one other guy that I'll be honest, I was so busy with fans and stuff at FanFest. I mean, with things on different rinks, I really didn't get a chance to see a lot of what was going on the ice. So tonight is going to be my first look at Gustav Nyquist.
Yeah.
I know you've been kind of paying a lot closer attention to what's been happening on the ice, and maybe spoken to him as well. What have the early look been like at the new guy that'll be skating along with Perfetti and Toews on that line tonight?
Well, and that's what I'll be watching. I mean, obviously Toews is the main attraction, but don't discount the importance of a Gustav Nyquist. The Jets have some big skates to fill in, Nikolai Ehlers and the offense that he brought, obviously in that top 6 spot. And, Nyquist is going to be given the first chance. One of my concerns, I guess, Huss, coming into camp had been how slow might a line of Toews, Perfetti, and Nyquist be? Because none of those guys on their own are speed demons. At least in the camps and the skates and the scrimmage and that sort of thing, the lack of foot speed has not jumped out to me as an issue with any of those guys individually or collectively as a line. But, tonight, obviously, they're going to be up against, and I haven't seen what kind of lineup Edmonton's dressing. I assume there's not a whole lot of star power to it either. But whatever Edmonton's top line is, they probably get matched again tonight. Against tonight. And so I'll be watching, just how those guys, like, what's their pace like? Can they dominate at times against what should be a bit of an uneven matchup? I would think that they would have an advantage, at least for tonight. And so, yeah, Nyquist is a big part of that. And, we kind of know what the potential is there for Cole Perfetti, but Nyquist and Toews, they're the two big question marks on that line. And so, obviously we want to see what kind of chemistry Toews and Nyquist have, along with Perfetti. That's, Toews is the main attraction tonight, but certainly worth keeping an eye on Gustav Nyquist, who, by all accounts, is going to be given every opportunity to fill that second line winger position that Nikolai Ehlers had. And he, he obviously is not Nikolai Ehlers, but can he find himself a comfortable fit there? Can he look at home nice and early? And so tonight's the first chance to get a viewing of that.
Mike, great stuff as always. We'll see you down at the rink tonight, and as the preseason continues, and we continue counting down to the big home opener and the official return of Jonathan Toews.
Yes.
We'll get our first look tonight. Thanks for doing this.
You bet, Huss. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the week.
Appreciate it. By the way, I see Dr. Terry popping in. Guys, hang tight, and we will do a wheel of winners. So if you want to go to the game tonight and you're able to go, hang with us in about 10, 15 or so. We will make that happen. I asked you all about the player that you've been most impressed at, you're most excited of these players. And, let's get to some quick fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. What you see is what you pay, and that's it. And certainly season ticket holders will tell you, if you do have an extra pair of tickets, definitely the best place to use to sell your tickets. Check out the site today, fansfirst.ca, by fans, for fans, no fees. Murray Sisler, firmly on the Kevin He bandwagon. Dan Jets fan is Danny. I assume he's talking about Danny Gilton. Danny Gilkin is the one that stands out the most. And Danny, had a nice run in Montreal and then scored that goal yesterday. Garlic Fingers said Gilkin was electric during the prospects tourney and the first game against Minnesota the other day. Schickster putting in a vote for Parker Ford. Jets number one is Colby Barlow. Phyllis says tonight Barlow is the one I'm most excited to watch. And Derek Schmidt agrees Barlow has lots to prove. Hockey Mom with a vote for Kevin He. And there's a heck of a lot more. Nicole J. Colby Barlow for sure. Kevin He looked great the other night as well. Philip Bridgman also adding in a vote for Barlow. Keep your thoughts coming in for fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right. We had a heck of a Monday nighter last night, and a great time was had by all at Boston Pizza. BP is the spot to be for your Monday nighters, your NFL Thursday nighters, your CFL action on the weekend, and of course, NFL Sunday as well. And it won't be long before the pick-a-player contests are back for Winnipeg Jet games at your local Boston Pizza. If you're getting out with your gang for the big game, make it BP at your local Boston Pizza Lounge. And of course, enjoy those ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and everything else. And hey, if you are staying at home tonight to watch the game and you can't get out, order the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Listen, as everyone gets ready for the drop of the puck, maybe you Jet fans need a trip over to Royal Sports to get that new jersey for the upcoming season. A lot of Toews 19s been seen around the city lately. Of course, they can hook you up with that at Royal Sports. You want a new Gabe Vilardi now that he's got a 6-year deal, or one of your favorites, Royal Sports has it all. Customizable jerseys in many different styles. They've got it all for you there. Tons of hats and hoodies and more for the Jets. Don't forget Bomber gear and the biggest and best selection of NFL merch in town. And of course, it goes without saying, Royal for over 50 years has been the hockey superstore in town. So before you hit the ice this year, make sure you're all suited up with a trip to Royal Sports. 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram and give them a follow at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Jays, big one tonight. We're going to get to that in just a moment. First up, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, we're going to get to the Coolbet lines and more. Let's check in with our pal Jake Bolin Moss, who joins us to talk some Jays. And how about this, Jake? Back with the WST poker crew tomorrow night. I cannot wait to get back at it with the fellas and everyone that's joined us for our previous tournaments. Now that we've got Wednesdays moving forward this year, perfect night, not a lot of Jet games on Wednesday, and right in the middle of the week. It seems like the schedule's just worked out perfectly. And again, tomorrow night, gang, 8 p.m., we'll get it going with our first of the new WST poker season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity. Throw in the Blue Jays game tomorrow night, sit down with your laptop, play a little poker with your friends from WST. So, yeah, that'll be a good time. You guys getting back into it. Like I said, I wish we were able to get in there with you guys and mix it up. But, yeah, maybe at some point we'll try to figure out if we can get you on a stream or something in the WST platform and, you know, have you kind of talking through it. I know there's been some crazy tournaments. But, yeah, maybe that's something we look at down the line. But, yeah, super excited for all the WSTers.
Yeah, so join us tomorrow. There you can see it. I mean, to register, just go to Coolbet, click on poker, and download or play in browser. I found the download worked out great on my computer. And then just go into tournaments and search WST, click it, enter it. We've also got a pair of tickets that we'll give away, just raffled off amongst everybody in the tourney. And don't forget about the $100 bounty on my head and Michael Remis's head when we get going. And Hammer is confirmed as well after his big performance in his first trip earlier. Look for him. He's short side snipe. How are you feeling about the Jays? That win on the weekend was much needed. A bit of a skid last week, losing 4 in a row, and that kind of happening at the same time as the New York Yankees heated up. I mean, despite having the best record in the American League, the job is not done for the Blue Jays as they look to lock down the AL East and one of the top 2 spots in the AL to avoid the wild card round entirely.
Yeah, listen, it's one of those situations that's the Kobe Bryant, job's not finished. Obviously, you're excited. The Jays are the first team in the American League to clinch the playoffs, and you're pretty happy you're not a team like Detroit, who not only has, lost their entire lead in the Central, but could be out of the playoffs by the end of this week. So, yeah, pretty crazy what's going on in the American League right now if you're following along. The Jays have a 2-game lead on the Yankees. They do have the tiebreaker as well, so people almost look at it as a 3-game lead. But the magic number is 4 right now for the AL East. So, you're hoping the Blue Jays can at least, if they win the next 2 series, Huss, that's what you're kind of looking at, and that should lock them in, right? So 2-1 against the Red Sox, 2-1 against the Rays to finish it out. You got all 6 games at home, and you guaranteed the bye, and you're guaranteed home field probably the whole way through. 4-2 should get them home field advantage the whole way through, at least the American League playoffs.
Yeah, you just mentioned the Tigers for a minute. Tigers just got swept by the Braves, swept by the Guardians, who were chasing them. They are 1-9 in their last 10, while Cleveland is 9-1. They've made up 8 games in 10 days. And when you look at the Major League Baseball standings right now, yes, the Detroit Tigers are still first place in the Central, but they're now just 1 up on Cleveland. And when you look at the wild card standings, if they were to drop out of first place, there's no guarantee that they make it in because the Astros have the same record as the Guardians as well. I can't imagine how tight the collars are in the Motor City right now with what's happened over the last few weeks with the Tigers.
Yeah, I was told that I heard today at one point they had a 16-game lead on this division. And, like you mentioned, Huss, in the last, whatever it's been, 10 days, they've just completely blown it up. Cleveland got hot exactly at the right time. And you'll remember Cleveland was a team that kind of sold at the deadline. They didn't really have aspirations to be where they are right now, but, they have all the momentum. Detroit's been losing a ton of momentum. And you're in a situation where it's you got to find a way to win. I think Scooble's on the mound tonight, so usually a pretty good bet. I haven't taken a look at the lines for the Detroit game, but maybe tonight they get it back on track and find a way to hold on. But, the callers are getting real tight in the Motor City, like you mentioned, Huss. And the thing is, you look at the AL playoff picture. One of these really good teams is not going to make it to the postseason. That's just a matter of fact. The Yankees, the Red Sox, the Astros, the Mariners, the Tigers, and the Guardians. One of those teams can't make it because the Blue Jays are already in. So it's going to be a battle right down to the end. And, it's still some drama happening over in the NL as well. The Mets have blown in a huge league in very Mets fashion. And I believe the Cincinnati Reds now control their own destiny. If they can find a way to win out, they can knock the Mets straight out of the postseason. And I'm sure Frank the Tank will be absolutely must watch on Twitter if that's the case.
Yeah, he's been apoplectic. Well, he always is, but as it gets worse and worse, it gets funnier and funnier for those of us watching the freakouts. I just realized this. It's Tigers in Cleveland tonight against the Guardians. They're opening a 3-game set. I mean, if things continue, they could be out of the playoffs on Thursday. I mean, what a wild. The Tigers with Scooble, who of course is one of the true aces in Major League Baseball. They are favored tonight at -159. Cleveland at +135. But if you want to play a streak and a hot team, go with the home dog on this one. As far as this Jays game tonight against the Boston Red Sox, we've got Kevin Gausman on the bump for the Jays tonight and Luis Giolito for the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox, pretty comfortable when it comes to the standings as far as the wild card. They are not going to win the American League East, but they can certainly make it interesting with the Yankees taking on the last place Chicago White Sox. I mean, this is a series that Gausman and the rest of the Jays are going to need to do it themselves because they can't count on any help from a team like the White Sox.
No, I mean, the Yankees get the White Sox for 3 and then the Orioles for 3 who are out of it as well. Obviously, Orioles have a bit more talent. They actually came on great late in the season, but it just was a little too late for them. Yeah, the White Sox, I mean, you're kind of just hoping as a Jays fan, not that you want to rely on other teams, but if the White Sox can just steal one somehow in this series, you're going to feel a lot better knowing you only need 3 wins. For the time being, it's just focus on the Blue Jays trying to win baseball games. And, it's a team that's been unbelievable at home this season. You couldn't be in a better spot. You just come off clinching the postseason. You had Monday off, and now you get a home game stand for 6 games. All you got to do is win 4 of them. They've done it all year long. You just got to trust they're going to do it again. The one interesting note, Huss, and I thought we were going to see Anthony Santander in the lineup tonight, probably sitting in that 2-hole. Not the case. Santander, according to Keegan Matheson, not in the lineup tonight and not on the bench for the Blue Jays. So yet to be activated. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. Obviously, only 6 games left. Do you want to see him play in a Blue Jays jersey before the postseason comes around? I imagine yes, but I don't know how that's going to look. They're probably concerned about, who comes out of the 26-man when they activate Santander off the IL. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch for as well. I have the lineup tonight: Springer, Varsho, Guerrero, Barger, Kirk, Lucas, Schneider, Jimenez, and then Ernie Clement with Giolito on the mound and Gausman on the other side for the Blue Jays.
When's Bo back?
Well, it's done. It's done for the regular season. He's been shut down. They shut him down a couple weeks ago. So, they're keeping everything pretty tight-lipped. I'd hope you could find a way to get him, if the Jays find a way to win the division and they get to skip the wild card and they're on to the ALDS, you get a little bit of a break. If you can find a way to get him on the ALDS roster, maybe even in just a DH spot, maybe he's not playing short. They've been working Jimenez at short. Ernie can kind of play every position in there, IKF. So they have guys that can play that position. If you can find a way to get Bo's bat in the lineup, that would be super important. But there hasn't been a whole lot out of Blue Jays land on what's happening with Bo in the timeline for when he might return, if at all, for this postseason.
Blue Jays are -159 favorites tonight. Red Sox at +135. Run line to win by 2 +127. And the total for the game tonight is 7.5 with the under at +102. I'm just looking at the Gausman props. Over 5.5 strikeouts, -159. Over 6.5 strikeouts, plus 125. I usually will hit total bases, and it was Bo almost every night before he got hurt. But the home run props are always interesting, and I did notice that the Springer Dinger is at plus 330, and every time I seem to bet it, that's the one thing that comes through. And we might be leaning on a little plus 330 for Georgie to go deep tonight. Any other leans that's going to be on your card for tonight's Jays game?
Yeah, I haven't totally dove into it yet, Huss. I just wanted to see, kind of the history against Giolito. Looks like Kirk's had some good at-bats. He's batting .353 and 17 at-bats, 6 for 17 with 4 homers against Giolito. What's Kirk's home run number tonight?
Plus 563.
Yeah, give me that. Kirk plus 563 to hit a dinger tonight. I think that's the way I'm leaning. 4 homers in his 17 career at-bats against Giolito at home tonight. Why not?
Alejandro, love Kirk. So we'll run with that and maybe a little piece of George for tonight as well. Hey, just before we wrap up, how about the Lions last night on Monday Night Football? What a performance by the team from the Motor City. Everyone that thought that this team was falling off this year, you lost Ben Johnson, you lost Aaron Glenn, and you got stuffed in a locker by the Packers in week 1. They turn around, drop a 50 burger on Chicago, and then put together one of the most impressive wins of the season so far, going in and absolutely thumping the Baltimore Ravens and having their way with that Baltimore defense all night long.
Yeah, and I think that's the importance of team identity, Huss. You can lose a couple coordinators, but the big man's still there, Dan Campbell. He lives, breathes Detroit Lions football, and he's a guy that makes people believe. So you bring in new coordinators, and you see great plays like the handoff to Amon-Ra, the pitch out to Jahmyr Gibbs for a touchdown. David Montgomery had a massive game. If you had him in fantasy last night, I actually got – no one cares about my fantasy team, but I have a Gibbs-Montgomery stack in one of my leagues.
You just play them both?
I played them both this week. It was awesome.
I had it all last year. I mean, you can't make the choice between the two, and things like last night happen all the time with Detroit. They both get theirs.
Yeah, it was a monster game from both those guys. So, yeah, I think identity, like franchise identity, team identity with Dan Campbell there, doesn't matter who you plug in. And, it's funny, if the Bears would have lost this week, people would probably be like, oh, my God, we made a huge mistake. But Ben Johnson seems to be finding something here with Caleb Williams. They're getting that offense chugging along. They looked really good against, I know it was Cowboys defense that's pretty much Swiss cheese right now. They're getting beat every which way. But, I think it's a good spot for Detroit to be. And now Baltimore behind the 8 ball. They're now 1-2 after, having a game slip away from them in week 1 against the Bills. They took care of business against the Browns. But even last night, you're at home on Monday Night Football in a place where, Lamar, I don't know if you saw his Monday Night Football numbers, but they were monstrous. Like, he had never thrown an interception.
22 touchdowns, no picks.
Or something like that. Yeah, just insanity on Monday night, and Detroit finds a way to win the football game. So, Baltimore's behind the 8 ball. A lot to look at, Haas. I can't wait for WST winners this weekend. Because, the Colts are now 3-0. The Chargers are 3-0. Your Chiefs finally picked up a win. So a lot of interesting storylines going on right now, and excited to keep it rolling here into week 4.
Yeah, all the NFL lines are up for the week at Coolbet right now if you want to jump on it. How about, that Chiefs-Ravens game at Arrowhead on Sunday is going to be – I mean, it's not a loser leaves town match this earlier in the year, and I still do think, regardless of who wins the game, that both teams end up finding a way to the playoffs. But 1-3 in the NFL is a tough place to come back from. Especially in a division like the AFC West, with the great start that the Chargers have, and the big news that Justin Herbert is going to be going head-to-head with Jackson Dart, who's getting his first start after Russie. It's so crazy. He goes for, 450 or something like that against the Cowboys the week before, and then could not have looked worse on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think the thing is, Huss, that's more of a detriment to what the Cowboys pass defense looks like this year. I mean, you saw Caleb Williams rip them up. You saw Russie rip them up. It's been pretty ugly for the Cowboys defensively, and you could probably use a guy like Micah Parsons getting a bit more pressure on the quarterback, but that's neither here nor there. I think you saw the reaction from the people at MetLife on Sunday night that, they're sick of the Russ experiment. I know they brought him in to kind of start in front of the rookie, but listen, if you're going to draft a rookie in the first round, people want to see him play. He's got weapons in Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. Cam Scatterbo looked really good with Tyrone Tracy going down. So, if you're a fantasy player, another guy you can look at picking up if still available in your league. So I think it's a new era starting in New York this weekend. The only thing is, Huss, I might have waited one more week and see him play against the Saints team that obviously hasn't been as good. Interesting, you're going to put him up against the Chargers, who have been quite the wagon here early in the season. I don't know if I'd want to throw my rookie QB into the fire just like that, but at the same time, I guess there's no time like the present to get him some action and see what you got in the first round rookie.
Yeah, definitely. Whatever. I mean, you'll go out, even if you take the loss and you get a little bit of experience, you feel a little bit more confident going in, another week of week one reps, and then you get the Saints, which is as close to the free space on the bingo card as there is.
Huss, I want to say one thing too. That Sunday night finish, I had the Giants plus 7.5 to close out a parlay. I just wanted Russ to find a way in the back door, and I don't know what he was doing in that final drive of the game. Like, I assume you saw that. Intentional grounding into the tunnel, which I've never seen before that close to the end zone. Then they ran a quarterback draw that went for about 3 yards, and then he overthrew the third down pass and hit the crossbar on the fourth down pass. There was no pass even close to finding the end zone on that last drive. In a drive that really didn't matter at the end of the day. The Chiefs were up 2 scores. It wasn't going to matter. I think that was close. Kind of the last straw for Dable. Like, I was screaming at my TV, like, Brian, what are you doing? Like, are you calling these plays, or is Russ just like refusing to throw an interception, so he's just overthrowing everything? I didn't understand it. So if I'm a Giants fan, this is what I want. I just want to not have to watch Russell Wilson football anymore.
Yeah, it was that was ugly. And again, we'll get into this a little bit more. Again, Friday, 10 a.m. live on Winnipeg Sports Talk. WST winners, NFL Week 4. Pat and I, for you golf fans, actually will have some additional content for the Ryder Cup tomorrow after WST. So stay tuned for that. I'm not sure I'll ever get over losing Rams plus 3.5 against the Eagles on Sunday. In the annals of bad beats, 2 blocked field goals, including a last play of the game blocked field goal that gets returned for a touchdown. I mean, thank God that the CFL made those announcements yesterday and we were busy, because I have been chewing on that since 3:00 on Sunday. It still doesn't seem real.
Yeah, listen, I rode with you. I didn't have it on the card, but I rode with Rams plus 3.5, and we were in a great spot all game long. And, I was on Red Zone. It was kind of jumping around all these different things that were happening because it's a pretty crazy witching hour. But to see the blocked field goal, in a spot where the Rams were about to win the game, they get a blocked field goal, and not only do the Eagles win, but they end up scoring on Jordan Davis taking it all the way back for 90, or as a 300 pounder. I think he had lost 25 pounds this offseason, so he had more stamina late in the game, and it really showed there late. Obviously, the Rams knew they were done, so you didn't see a lot of guys rushing back to get the tackle. But definitive, maybe the worst beat so far this season, and probably more to come. Even that, for those bettors, the over in the Cowboys Bears game, I think they only scored 7 points in the second half, and they probably only needed 14 to get there. Some ugly things yesterday, on Sunday. And yeah, listen, that's the way of the world when it comes to the gambling space. You're gonna win some that way, but you're also gonna lose some that way. So you got to take it as it is.
Well, I will say this just to close a quick NFL chat, and we will get back into it on Friday, 10 a.m. Patrick Mahomes does a lot of incredible things. that defensive play that he made to rip the ball out of the defender after throwing it backwards and Pacheco went the wrong way, maybe the best defensive play I've ever seen for a quarterback. 90% of the quarterbacks in the league probably don't even chase that down after they made that play. And I mean, that could absolutely be a season changing, because if that goes in for a touchdown, who knows the way the rest of that game goes.
Yeah, even if the Giants player just jumps on top of the ball, they're down at the inside the 5. So, you think the Giants probably going to punch it in at that point. It completely changed the outlook of that game. It might change the outlook of the season for the Chiefs, who really couldn't afford to start 0-3. And a team we're going to talk about this weekend that did start 0-3, the Houston Texans. I don't know what we can expect from them going forward, but they got the Titans this week. If they can't find a way to beat the Titans, the Houston Texans are in big trouble.
Yeah, and big time faceplant for the Falcons, losing 30-0 to the Panthers. We'll get to
Panthers,
all of that
baby.
on Friday.
I told you.
Listen,
Outright.
I like that one. That was a nice pick. Jakey, great stuff. Looking forward to getting it together with you and Pat again, 10 a.m. for our Week 4 picks against the spread. Folks, hit up Coolbet in the meantime. For all the odds, you can use the promo code WST if you haven't played there before. Use that promo code and get a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Of course, Ryder Cup odds are there. We'll have that for you after tomorrow's WST. And join us for the poker tourney tomorrow, 8:00 p.m. Central Time. It all gets going. We'll have information on our socials. If you have any questions, just send us a DM. We'll get you through it. But hopefully everyone that has been in the tourneys before will join us, and everybody new would love to have you join us. Jakey, we'll talk to you on Friday, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Huss.
Good stuff. All right. Speaking of Ryder Cup, it is coming on the weekend. Kind of like best event of the year, if you ask me. I was looking at some highlights from Hazeltine in 2016. I was lucky enough to be down there for it, and that bomb 50-footer from Rory McIlroy, and then Patrick Reed going over the top from him. It's such a unique event. We're going to look at our favorite picks and whatnot tomorrow for that. And of course, we'll have a few more Breezy Bend golf reports of the season for the Ryder Cup. Of course, Breezy finishing up an incredibly successful year, hosting the 2025 Manitoba Open and more. If you're already thinking about next season, now's a great time to try to get in at Breezy. Contact Corey Johnson at the clubhouse or go online to breezybend.ca for more information on 2026 Breezy Bend memberships. All right. We have it in the chat. If you missed it, gang, thanks to our good friend Dr. Terry at St. Vital Dental Center, we've got a pair of tickets for the game tonight. Want to give those to a WST listener that is around and able to go to the game. So if you want to go tonight, !tickets. In just a second, we'll spin the wheel of winners. And if you win, you're going to need to send us an email right away with the email that we can send the tickets to, and we will do that for you shortly after the show. Again, !tickets right now. We'll do that right after we get to our Assiniboia Downs picks, because Remis, we're back at it. You are hot on my heels. It is going to come right down to the final few races of the year. And 7 more of those races are tonight with a post time of 7:30 at Assiniboia Downs on a very, very nice day.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky here with the weather the last couple of days, and live racing continues. I had a big one last week. I think I won like 80 or something.
You did.
So
89, I think.
It was 83, 45 on September 16. I hit a trifecta. So I have some big favorites tonight, and then I did 2 longer shots trying to hit a winner. So to pass you. No, I want to leave no doubt. So I'm trying hard.
I didn't go with just winners today. I've got 2 triactors and 2 exacta boxes, but from chalkier horses. So we'll see how that goes. I am on tonight race 2, 4, 6, and 7.
Yeah, I have 3, 4, 6, and 7.
All right, well, let's start it off with race number 2. And I'm going with a $1 triactor box. My favorite horse in this one, Pickin' Riffs, number 8, not one of the program selections, but 3rd in the AI Smart Picks, along with the 2 favorites, better make that 2, number 5, and number 6, Silver Jaguars. So a 1, 5, 6, $1 triactor box for race number 2. What do you got for 3?
On race 3, I'm picking Del Vecchio to win. That's the favorite. That's the program selection. AI smart pick. Del Vecchio, a long shot. A veteran horse. My bad. Not a long shot.
Like
That's
Del
favorite.
Vecchio, big favorite in this one. All right, race number 4. I'm doing a 1-7 exacta box. Kate's Princess and Big Tippa, number 7, 1-7.
I'm responding to comments. Please only enter the wheel if you can actually go. I know people just like to win.
Yeah.
Like T-Will just wants to be on the wheel, but he doesn't want to win. Don't do that, please.
T-Will,
just waste everyone's
you're
time.
banned.
Yeah, don't do that. I'll take your name out. Sorry. What horse are we on? 4?
Yeah, you're in on race.
I have a 3-4 exacta. Commando's Last Dance, Lauder-Imagn. Going for a bit of a longer shot here. That's a long shot. I'm trying hard here.
That could be a big one. Commando's Last Dance and Lauder-Imagn?
Yes.
Nicely
Going for a
done,
longer
all right.
shot here.
Oh, if you win that one, we could be that could be a big big change in the drastics. All right, we got a race number 6. Race number 6. I have a 2-3-7 triactor box. Will the Thrill, which is not one of the program or AA smart picks, and I'm going to put those in with the 2 favorites, Exotics Bear and the favorite McEwen. 2-3-7.
Okay, I just have 3-7, Exotics, Bear, and McEwen. So last one was a bit of a longer shot. This is the 2 favorites, so hopefully this one pays off.
And then we go to race number 7. Got 4 bucks left. And I'm just boxing the top 2 horses, Prairie Drifter and Poderoso Ecuse. 6-7, $2 exactor box.
And I have on race 7, 1-3-6. TR's first. That's my long shot. Ethan's Animal, a bit of a longer shot as well. And 6, Ponderoso Ecus. That's a favorite. So I'm trying hard here, Huss. I'm trying hard. I did some favorites like Del Vecchio and that other exacta in race 6, and then 2 long shots, hoping for a payout.
Oh, I got a bad feeling about tonight that you're going to hit something good. All right. Well, good luck to you.
I mean,
good luck to me.
It's not out of the question. I have had 2. I've had 2 like bigger ones. I've had a couple big ones, so we'll see. You had the
2
biggest.
weeks ago, I
think
had
you
that
got the big winner of the year.
119. Yeah, that one. I've had 2 big ones, but you've been a little more consistent than me. We'll see how it is. Again, tomorrow's ladies' night. They've got some great prizes. Check the Assiniboia Downs Instagram for more on what's going on for Girls' Night Out. But tonight, tomorrow, 7:30, post time for live racing out at Assiniboia Downs. And, of course, you can make a reservation. I'm heading out next Wednesday, taking my folks to my mom always loves going out there, so we're going to do the Downs for next Wednesday, right before we dive into Winnipeg Jets season. All right, we've taken care of business. Now it's time to send somebody to tonight's game, courtesy of Dr. Terry and St. Vital Dental Center. Really appreciate that, Tara. And again, hit up at stvitaldental.ca to pop by and see Terry and get your grill taken care of. Remo, how many entries on the wheel of winners today?
Not a ton. So respect to everyone because we have like 4.
Yes,
we had 4,
thank you.
We had 400 people before, but we got 250 now. Only 16 entered. So I'm surprised at that ratio of entrants to viewers.
People have plans. This is a last minute thing. We appreciate people not entering if they can't go to the game. So we've got 16 people. Good luck to all of you. Thanks again to St. Vital Dental Center. We're going to throw these names into the wheel of winners and we're going to spin it. And if you win, we need you to send us an email at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com so we can get your email and I can send you the tickets, courtesy of Terry and St. Vital Dental Center, for tonight's game. And you can be one of the first Jet fans to see Jonathan Toews on the ice in a Jet jersey playing in game action at Canada Life Center.
All right. Here is the wheel.
Right on.
We have all the
Good
names.
luck to everybody.
All right.
Good
Am I
luck
hitting?
to all. Hey, by the way, did I tell you I met Comet the other day?
No, I thought Comet was a dog.
Comet said hi to me. Well, Comet golfs a lot. I don't know how Comet's a dog, but
Yeah, his avatar is a
was,
dog.
Working at the game and came up and said hi. It was great to meet Comet. If you see me at the game tonight, WSTers, definitely say hi. We've got a little event beforehand, and then we'll be up in the 300s in our usual corner and probably in the whiskey hanger at the intermission. Anyway, shout out to Comet. He's always in there. All right, everyone that's entered is in. Let's spin it and see who Dr. Terry is sending to the game tonight. All right. Shane Payne, 123, 123. What a boy, Shane Payne. Shane, fire us that email, Winnipeg Sports Talk at gmail.com, and let us know if it's that email or a different email that you want me to send the tickets to, and I will try and do that shortly after the show. Reem, these shows right now, you get into the fall, the hockey comes back, we've got a playoff race in the Canadian Football League, huge news drops as it was. I mean, we barely had any time to talk NFL or talk Blue Jays, but that's good when the docket is this full right now on everything going on around Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Well, I mean, you and Jeff were planning on doing CFL 110 for like an hour, and I went over an hour and a half just talking about these rules. CFL really dropping this bomb, taking up our content here. But yeah, so much going on. This is that time of year where you have the sports equinox, not quite here yet with NBA, but you got CFL, NHL preseason, baseball playoffs, NFL. There is a lot going on. A lot to talk about. And the Jets preseason continues tonight against Edmonton. And I haven't seen an Oilers lineup anywhere. I haven't seen any of their reporters, like in Edmonton, who are usually on it, mention a lineup. They didn't post it on their own social media or their own website. Kind of weird. So we'll see who's in the lineup for them.
I'll be honest, I was so fired up for Toews and everything else. I completely forgot they were even playing the Oilers. Like, the opponent was completely secondary. I don't expect Connor McDavid or any of the big boys there tonight, though. Usually the main vets don't travel as much during the preseason.
Before we go, the one thing we didn't even talk about is another league making big changes was Major League Baseball announcing the ABS challenge system for balls and strikes. That's automatic balls
so overdue.
And strikes. Overdue. I don't like that, each team gets 2 challenges and gets to keep them if they're successful. Like, I don't think it should be up to them to decide when to challenge. Just fix it. Like, what it is. If you have it already, like, it shouldn't be up to them to challenge. But that's one more step to getting it right. So better than nothing. If it's like a really bad call, they'll probably get it right and challenge. I guess there's more, it just introduces this strategy about when to use your challenge. Use it early, you save it. It's about getting it right, not the challenge system. I think it sucks. So I like in NFL when they buzz in and just change it. I don't know why or when they do, but getting it right is what is important. And hopefully we can get away from challenges.
Yeah, well, listen, I would prefer just to have the robots do all balls and strikes personally, but this is better than what it is right now. So we'll take it. Big game for the Jays tonight. I can't believe I did not realize that the Tigers were playing the Guardians. Like, they could be tied for first place tomorrow on the show. They could be out of the playoffs in 2 days. So it's going to be a real exciting final week of Major League Baseball for the teams that will be in it. Maybe we'll talk a little Jays tomorrow on the program as well. We'll have the latest on the Bombers with Zach Caleros back at practice. Jarrett Stearns in practice. Obviously, Keurig Wheatfall out after he was absolutely decimated in that game against the Red Blacks on the weekend. We'll look for an update on him. Hopefully hear from Mike O'Shea tomorrow and more as the Bombers get ready for that big one Saturday afternoon against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnson will join us on Thursday's episode of WSC. So join us tomorrow and make sure to join us for that. We will have the NFL show up on Friday morning. But today, if you're still around, go check out CFL 110 with You Missed It, our biggest show ever, coming out of yesterday's big announcement by Stuart Johnson, the CFL commissioner. Huge thanks to our sponsors for making this show happen each and every day. MC Stormy, I'll email you right after the show. Thanks for being with us, gang. We will see you tomorrow. Enjoy tonight's preseason action. Good luck to Jonathan Toews. And we'll talk about his performance and everything else coming out of tonight, tomorrow, right here. You know where to be, 1 p.m. on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a good one.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.